This is Denise Allen with Your Pennsylvania Ancestors, and I'm here with the final episode for season 5. It's hard to believe I started off this season with really great intentions. Often happens in genealogy, and it's not kind of winding up the way I wanted to. So let me take a moment here and explain where I am and what the plan is going forward with this Curry research. I kicked off this season 5 of Your Pennsylvania Ancestors, taking this 1923 death certificate for John Robert Curry, trying to figure out where his family came from in Ireland, right? So I know the last name Curry is Irish. I know from where he is in Pennsylvania, up in Clearfield County, that is an area of a lot of early Irish immigrants, a lot of what we call the Scots Irish here, or the Ulster Irish in Ireland. And I thought maybe I could finally get this family back on the boat and figure out where they came from in Ireland. And it didn't happen. Here's where I am stuck in this research. In the last episode, I covered this genealogy, this family tree that I found by a gentleman named Jim Curry or James Curry in Clearfield County at the Historical Society. And he said, as I'm tracing this family back, that there was a Samuel Curry and a John G. Curry that were some of the first residents in Clearfield County. And likely, maybe one of them or both of them had come from Ireland. So I'm like, great, this is going to answer my question. So I go to the Clearfield County records that are on Family Search, and I look, and there's no Samuel Curry that has died in Clearfield County and left an estate. Like, there's nothing. So if there was a Samuel Curry who did exist in Clearfield County, he didn't own any property. He didn't have anything of any substantial wealth to pass on to his children or his spouse. So, well, that was disappointing. So I thought, well, that's all right, because I had this other name, John G. Curry. Maybe he had some land or something of wealth to pass on to his family. Nada. Also struck out on that. So my other option is maybe these gentlemen lived in a different county, right? So Clearfield County formed in 1804. Possibly these gentlemen lived somewhere else and died there. I'm concentrating on Clearfield County because I've read in the Clearfield County history books that there were several Currys, doesn't give me first names, who were early residents of the county and there in 1804 when the county was formed. And I'm like, great, this could be some of these folks. But as soon as I get outside that, and I can't attach the names I have to a Clearfield County courthouse record, I'm a little lost, right? Like, so now I'm like, okay, they could be from somewhere else in Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania is a big state, even in the early 1800s. And now I've got a lot more research to do. So that is where I am. I am at the point of a lot more research to do. And what do I mean by a lot more research to do? Well, one is I need to go through all these early Currys in Clearfield County, sort of do like a one name study of them and really try to figure out how they're related to each other. Maybe I even figure out when the history book talks about the early Curry family, can I figure out exactly who those individuals were? That would be fantastic. I also need to look for where else does that name show up in Pennsylvania, particularly Western and Central Pennsylvania. So I'm thinking this family, the Scots Irish, tended to like flee for the hills. A lot of them didn't hang out in Philadelphia and the couple counties that surround it. A lot of them just kind of took off for what was at the time the wilderness. So I'm going to look for, just expanding out from Clearfield County, where else are there Currys around there? I'm going to expand out just with that name and see if I can find this Samuel and this John. The other thing I'm going to do is really look at those records around the Civil War. I talked about this in another episode, how the Civil War pension records and the deserter records could help me unlock the Robinson Curry, Nancy Curry relationship, maybe identify Robinson's siblings, and try to figure that out. But the third thing I need to do is look at the early families in Clearfield County again. So who are they exactly? What were their surnames? And what records can I easily access from home about them? Maybe some of my Currys acted as witnesses on wills. Maybe they acted as a witness on somebody else's estate, somebody else's will, maybe somebody else's land deed. So it will give me evidence that they're there, right? That name exists in that time and place. So I need to look for that, but things aren't indexed by witnesses. They're indexed by the central player, the person who died or the person who owned the land. And as I'm going on about this, you can tell wow, there's a lot of families here. There's a lot of names. There's a lot of possible confusion that can happen. I'm going to take this fall and do this additional spreading out around the Curry family, really sink myself into early Clearfield County. I hope to know it as well as the residents at that time knew it. So just to summarize, I went into season 5 betting on 2 things doing this research. One was that this family could be traced through the typical records that genealogists use. So once I got beyond the more contemporary birth, death, and marriage records, that I'd be able to continue tracing them through land deeds, wills, probate records, which are easily accessible online, and maybe through cemetery records that they would have left, even cemetery headstones. That assumption proved false. So I do not have a lot of those typical records, particularly earlier with this family, and I don't have them later either, but at least later I have government issued records that were standard for everyone, such as birth, marriage, and death, those vital records. The second thing that I was betting on going into season 5 was that life was returning to some sort of normalcy and that archives would remain open, as well as repositories such as historical societies and genealogical societies. That also has been blown out of the water. It looks like things are beginning to kind of shut down again. So as I mentioned before, I did have an appointment at the National Archives. I do have a record I'm requesting from the Philadelphia branch of the National Archives related to this family. And I'm hoping that I can at least get the Philadelphia branch records. I'm not sure, but I know I can't get the National Archives in DC records around the Civil War. Hopefully all this kind of just passes our life in 2020 and 2021. We are kind of hoping for the best and planning for the worst. But the reality is right now is that there's things that I cannot access that certainly would help me complete the puzzle of this family. Your Pennsylvania Ancestors, this podcast is taking a break, and it will be back beginning of October 2021. I have a lot of great interviews planned to help people learn about their Pennsylvania ancestors and discover fun details about early Pennsylvania history, which can help all of us with our research. I would love it if you dropped a review of this podcast. So if you found something of value, give it a nice 5-star rating and drop in a comment. It would really help me out and help other genealogists out, which is always great. If you're watching this on YouTube, same. Give a thumbs up, like to the podcast, and be sure to leave a comment real quick and just let people know what you found of value of the episode, because it helps them find it and take a listen. And if you want to keep up with what I'm doing in terms of Pennsylvania genealogy, and if you want to read anything that I write in terms of resources around Pennsylvania genealogy history, be sure to go to paancestors.com. I have tons of blog articles there about how to do research, where to find records, and also an option to join as a member where I give some exclusive content and videos on how I'm actually doing my research. So if you were interested in that kind of behind the scenes look, what's it look like when a genealogist is researching? It's not always pretty, but you know that because you're probably doing research yourself under the same conditions. But you can take a look, learn from the video, comment, ask questions, and get help in doing your research so you can discover your Pennsylvania ancestors. And I am looking forward to being back with you in fall 2021. Stay safe, stay healthy, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and I will see you soon.